Hi, I'm Hazel. It is almost Saturday, which makes it time to sit down and catch up with a brand new vlog, and this week we had a brand new dev Q&A yesterday, dealing with, it might have had a theme, these things often do, but as I recall, it was basically like the FAQ of BfA. There's a lot of acronyms flying around today. They talked about a bunch of stuff, but a couple of points of interest. Specifically, I think the really big one was that you cannot, in BfA, you cannot change your gear in the middle of a dungeon anymore. That is a change, it is an intentional change, and now everybody's gonna have some feelings about it one way or the other. My personal opinion is I don't care. I have changed gear in a dungeon before. I had several different sets that would swap around my legendaries depending on, you know, are you doing trash, are you doing a boss, do you need to do ads, whatnot. So I had that set up and it wasn't terribly hard to do, but it also wasn't like terribly, I didn't feel like a super cool person for having a button on my bar that swapped an equipment set out. And I think that some people are forgetting a couple of things around the context of this change, and that this isn't happening in Legion in the current dungeons. This is going to be happening in an environment where we no longer have those 13 legendaries that you want to be swapping in and out. Yes, you'll have Azerite armor that to some extent does the same thing, but it would be more akin to needing to swap out relics, which of course isn't something that you do right now anyways. So I don't think it's going to be really the worst thing ever to not be able to swap out your gear. I'm kind of relieved that it's one less thing to have to worry about, and that I can just have either a dungeon set, or if I want to get really fancy, maybe I have sets for different types of dungeons, or if I want to get super fancy, I could have a set for every single one of them. I'm not doing that, but somebody is. But once you're in the dungeon, you can focus on doing what needs to be done there and not worry about it otherwise. So I'm alright with that. They talked about seasonal Mythic Plus affixes, which I think is a really cool concept. The first one is Infested, which is actually themed to the last boss of the first raid. And I really hope that they continue doing that, and that they continue theming it to the things that are going on in the world, because I think that's a really neat way to tie like the atmosphere of the story going on to the actual dungeon content. You can think back to that time, like way back an expansion or two ago, when you and your friends were doing these dungeons, and they all had this thing because this thing was in power, you know, interchanging thing for whatever's going on. I think it's a good and fairly safe addition to what's already a largely successful system, so I'm glad that they're building on it without messing with it too much. Another big piece of news is that the 8.0 patch, which is the BfA Prepatch, is now on the PTR, so we can kind of start to hazard a guess at when that's going to come out. It's a fairly easy guess to hazard, maybe not down to the day, but generally speaking, patches go on to the PTR 3 or 4 weeks before they go live-ish, and also pre-patches tend to happen 3 or 4 or 5 weeks-ish before the expansion launches, so you can pretty safely stick it at roughly a month or so from now, which is like roughly a month or so from launch, and you know, approximately mid-July for the pre-patch is like the guess. They did say that artifact traits will be disabled with the pre-patch along with the rest of system changes, including things like war mode, and of course all the class changes and whatnot, and that doesn't surprise me too much, but I thought it was really funny when the question came up, and it is a valid question of, will that change happen when you log in on the patch, or will it happen after you've done the questing to progress the story to a point where your artifact's disabled? Because your artifact weapon does have a little piece of text on it that says this was disabled because of reasons. Not spoiling it, but because of reasons. And if you haven't done those reasons yet, it would make sense that it wasn't disabled, but if they put the artifact disabling behind a quest line, nobody would do that quest line. Like, you are significantly weaker once your traits are disabled. Your artifact weapon is still pretty good, and it still benefits from a bunch of extra item levels, but you know, once you turn your traits off, I mean, it's not the same anymore. So it would just be really funny if they had locked that behind it, and everybody's just looking at this new content like, I don't know, do you want to do it? I don't want to do it. I like my weapon, it works. Generally speaking, balance-wise, the pre-patch is going to be just like 4-ish weeks of just a hot mess, as it always is. That's like the tradition, and it's not really a problem because it's such a temporary problem and it happens every time. And it's going to be great. And they're doing a PvP, like a Legion post-season that's going to be just like a little, instead of only being able to queue skirmishes after the last Legion season ends, you'll be able to queue with an intact MMR system, so you can actually fight against people of your own skill level-ish. And I think that's going to be just hilarious with, like, nobody has any of the BfA stuff yet, but we all have, like, the new BfA systems. It might not be that bad because you don't really unlock much, aside from Azerite traits, as you level up in BfA. There's no new talent, there's no new abilities, there's no Draenor perks, there's really nothing like that aside from Azerite armor traits, that's it. So, you know, maybe it'll work great. Before that Q&A, everything's a little bit blurry in my memory. I know there was a piece of news, because I got some tweets about it, about them announcing blood trolls at a convention or on a panel or something, and then they came out in the Q&A de-announcing it, saying somebody had just misspoken, and that's hilarious, because that's such a relatable mistake. Like, that's such an easy thing to do when you're talking about all the trolls, to, like, misuse an adjective, and all of a sudden you've just made new allied race. which isn't happening, and I'm not really mad about it. We have enough trolls, especially once Zandalari trolls come in. I think that those will be good, and the blood trolls will be great as an NPC race, but I thought that was just such a funny situation that somebody just accidentally said blood trolls, and everybody got all excited about it. It was great. In my very cool and super exciting life this week, I added the cherry shrimp that I was talking about to my invertebrate aquarium. It used to be the snail aquarium, but it's now the invertebrate aquarium because it contains more than just snails. So we now have 2 snails in there and the 8 red cherry shrimp of varying states of redness. I think I only got 1 or maybe 2 females in there. So those are going to be some very popular little shrimp ladies. But yeah, they're cute. I haven't posted any really good pictures because it's impossible to take good pictures of them because they're really tiny. And the tank is kind of an odd shape, and the light, it's difficult. And I would not expect to see it on webcam anytime soon because it's kind of far away, and also these things are like, they're very, very tiny, but I'm really excited. It's fun. It's a fun tank to sit and watch. Questions from this week. Kitten Fluffy asks, question, do you think that Worgans should ever get a tail? No. And the funny thing is, I can't tell you why I don't want them to have a tail. I just don't. No. I don't have any good reason, but no. Lindsay Albert asks, will you do raid boss guides again? Yours are super helpful. Thanks. Well, thank you for watching them. I am planning on doing raid boss guides. I have been keeping up with raid testing. I have had more difficulties raid testing this time around. I've had some groups that were not progressing the bosses past the first phase. So either there's going to be some boss guides with some very creative, very amateur animating to try and display concepts that I didn't manage to get footage of, or a couple of bosses, potentially Gahoon, depending on if I get any good normal footage of him this weekend. Potentially that one may have to wait until I actually kill it on live, kind of like Argus was, because I fought that boss for an hour. And I had no idea what was going on, and there's like more than, I think there's like at least 4 phases, and I'm pretty sure we saw like none of them. Kayla asks, do you have a Switch, and if so, do you plan on getting the new Pokemon game? So we don't have a Switch right now. We're probably getting one eventually because I know my husband really wants to play Kingdom Hearts, and I feel like that's a Nintendo thing. I've been very, very, very out of the console world for a while. So we're probably getting one eventually. As far as the Pokemon, I am not planning on playing the one that they've announced, like the Eevee Pikachu tie-in to Pokemon Go, just because I am clean of Pokemon Go right now. I was very addicted for over a year. I played a lot of Pokemon Go, and I've only recently gotten clean of that, so I don't really want to touch anything that's like contaminated. But not that there's anything wrong with Pokemon Go, it just wasn't a right fit for my life. But as far as the other one, if they do a proper mainline Pokemon game for the Switch, which I've heard is going to be a thing, but I have yet to hear any more details than that, if one of those comes out, I will probably do that. Lorshan asks, in your new mail opening video, you said that you only had 1 dog, but in one of your old videos, there were 2 dogs. I'm afraid to ask, but what happened to the other dog? So that was a pretty old video that you must have found. So way back, and it would have been in a different place. It would have been in not this apartment. So my husband and I actually had roommates, 2 roommates, and one of them had a dog, which was that dog. She is perfectly fine to this day. Good dog, just not my dog. Siddhartha, and my apologies if I mispronounced that, says, hi Hazel, what do you think? Will Blood of Sargeras become tradable on BfA, like Spirit of Harmony when MOP ended? So I don't think so, and I double checked on beta, and if they are going to make it tradable, they have not done so yet. Right now in the BfA beta, Bloods of Sargeras are still BOP, so I don't see them changing it just because I don't know if anybody's thinking about it. And if they are, I don't know if they care enough to change it. Do people want that? I don't know. In any case, that has been my week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions that you would like answered on a vlog, please leave them as comments on the most recent vlog. I may do a surprise stream or so this weekend, and possibly next week of BfA, like an extra BfA stream, because I need to do a bunch of dungeons on the beta to gear up and to get to a point where I can do the mythics and start making videos for that. Let me know what you think, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!